Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Hashtag Act Your Life. I'm your host, John Rosenfeld. Today's guest has been a client of mine for 15 years and has been working consistently since 2013. And when you hear his story, you'll understand why. Yes, his talent speaks for itself, but what truly sets him apart is his relentless work ethic and business-minded approach to the industry. He's a mensch, kind, generous, and sharp as can be. And right now, you can catch him in Season 3 of Yellow Jackets. I'm excited for this one, so let's get to it. Please meet Steven Krueger. This is an incredibly exciting day. I'm getting to sit down with you, Steven Krueger.
Oh, wow.
One of my truly just like, God, you're one of my favorite people in the world.
Well, ditto.
You're just an extraordinary human.
Thank you. That's very sweet. You know those people in your life that like every time you see them, no matter how long it's been, they kind of instantly put a smile on your face. You are that for me.
You were that for me, both in my face and internally as well. I'm smiling all over. It's so great. It's Season 3. You're in LA right now because Season 3 of Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, comes out in a few days.
Comes out in a few days. How has all the pomp and circumstance been?
Wild. The fact that we are here doing a Season 3 is amazing. This is also the first year that we are kind of officially turned over with the Paramount team instead of the Showtime team. It's kind of like been absorbed now. So we're working with like a whole new team of PR people, and they've been lovely so far. Also, Season 3 of any show, I think, is a little bit of an inflection point, right? It's like you've got Season 1. Like, great, huge hit. Everyone loves it. And then Season 2 is like, okay, it's still pretty good. Maybe not as good as Season 1, right? Like, that was kind of the general response that I feel like people had to it. I loved it. I thought it was great. And so then it's like Season 3 is like that, okay, was Season 1 a fluke, or is this show actually really, really good? Having known what we shot in Season 3, I'm pretty confident that this is going to be our best season. So
Really?
Yeah. This is like, everybody was just like the writing, the performances, like everything is it just feels like everybody's settled in, and this is exactly the story that we wanted to tell from the beginning. And I don't know, I'm excited. Knock on wood, who knows if it's actually going to happen. But
I have so many questions. First, I want to ask you, so when you come out here, just as far as, I think this would be interesting to everybody, is you're coming out here for this PR. There's like a little bit of a PR blitz.
That's all
right?
it is.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
So how does that get arranged? Like, because you were, you finished the season in October. We'll talk later. You shot your short film that you directed.
Yep.
But like, is this give me the process. So they call your manager. You call your agent. This is where Steven's got to show up. This is his plan. How much is your schedule planned right now?
Like down to the hour.
Down to the hour.
Yeah, this whole week. And it all goes through, I'm fancy now. I have a publicist. So.
Fancy.
Yeah, real fancy. Let me tell you, my bank account loves it. It's just like, it's like one more person where I'm like, oh, where did that? Oh, that's where that money went. Yep. But no, honestly, like worth every penny. I always thought that the idea of like publicity was kind of silly, and I've now gotten used to the fact over the past few years that it's just kind of part of the game.
Yeah.
It's just like something you have to do. And honestly, the better you get at it, the more people want to work with you. So I've tried to embrace it a little bit more than I did when I was first starting out. But yeah, anytime I think you're on a show that is going to generate press and PR on its own, I've learned that it's helpful to, when you're done and you're getting ready to, the show's getting ready to air, bring on a PR team so that they can kind of like generate some buzz for you individually that's kind of separate from the show itself.
You can stand out a little bit.
Do
they help prep you at all? Like as far as
we got a couple pages worth of like talking points.
You do?
Yeah. I think I read it once and I've forgotten everything that it said. It's all the common sense stuff, like, don't give away spoilers. Don't talk about like who dies and who doesn't die in this season. Don't talk about, what roles some of the guest stars play, because that's going to be a surprise.
Do you ever say something you're like, please don't write that down?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, okay.
That's another benefit of the publicist. They call afterwards and they're like, you can't
say that.
You got to get rid of that. Yeah, exactly. Luckily this week is like I have like an itinerary from my PR people that's like every single day by the hour. Like if there's a car ready to pick me up, it's like, here's the number, here's the reference, all this. They're going to take you to this place, and the thing will last from this time to this time, and then you'll be back at the hotel. And then so yeah, it's kind of nice. I don't really have to think. I just kind of look at the schedule and I'm like, this is where I have to be when I have to be there.
Do you ever get any tips from, because a lot of your cast has quite a lot of experience.
They do. Mm-hmm.
They've done a lot of PR in their lives.
They have.
Have you learned anything from them?
No, not really.
No?
I tend to
No.
not know. No, I mean, outside of what I was just saying, that like you may not enjoy necessarily the actual experience of it. It can be tedious. You're repeating kind of the same answers to questions over and over again. But also, this is the game.
It is the game.
Like this is what you do. Even before the social media generation, it's like, yeah, you went on all the talk shows and promoted your thing so that people would go see your movie or people would tune into your show.
And you're so empathic where you're going to have empathy for any questioner, any person who's asking you questions. You're going to have empathy for them. You're not going to say that's the dumbest question I've ever heard.
I would never say that. However, I think one of the things that I've spent therapy sessions talking about this because like literally a few years ago, I was with my therapist and I said, I need you to help me wrap my head around and have a better attitude when it comes to like PR and promotion and stuff, publicity. And one of the things that he said to me was, all the people you're talking to when you do this stuff, this is their life. Like this is their career. Without you, like, they don't have anything, without them having people to interview, like they don't have a career. So it's kind of like a mutually beneficial thing and something that you can embrace from that perspective as well of like, oh, I'm actually helping this person's career by sitting down with them and talking with them and giving them some sort of like interesting thing to then put out to the world.
That's a great perspective.
I know. And it really helps me. And the other thing that he said that I thought was very helpful, which I alluded to a second ago, he was like, people like Chris Evans and Paul Rudd, I mean, they're getting hired to play leads of movies in Marvel because they're good at this stuff. Because Marvel knows when it's time to promote the film, those guys are going to show up and they're going to crush it. And they're going to talk to the press and they're going to be charming and they're going to be funny and they're going to make people want to go see the movie. And I was like, oh, fuck. I'm like, that is actually a really good point. That's probably part of the reason they're getting hired.
I saw this clip of someone interviewing Kate Winslet. And they asked her, and this woman who was asking the question looked incredibly educated and was very well spoken.
Yeah,
and she said in this very sophisticated voice, "So in Titanic, was there room on the wood to have saved Leo?"
I didn't know where you were going with that. Okay. And what was her response?
Seriously? After Mare of Easttown and all of these shows, you're relitigating whether she could have saved Leo in Titanic? She's like, it just was so wonderful to watch her try to show restraint and have empathy and say, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. On the flip side, you know what the other perspective of that is? What a wonderful gift to have been in something that has like, still in like the zeitgeist.
See, that's so healthy.
It's like, my God, I did something 20, 25 years ago that people still want to talk to me about.
See what a good person you are. Yeah. I think I would have lost my shit.
All right. Well, talk to me when I'm in Kate Winslet's position and we'll see if I feel the same way.
I am. Yeah, it's funny. I've known you for so long.
I know, like a very long time. Do you remember the first time we met?
At my apartment.
Yeah.
At my apartment.
When you were like starting your studio.
We just had our 15-year anniversary last week.
That's amazing.
Wow,
congratulations.
And I made right at the very beginning. And you were
I don't think you didn't have a studio space yet. That's why you were doing
I was all over. I was
you were going
I was teaching out of my house sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And I was renting stuff from the place that's now closed down on Santa Monica Boulevard. I forgot what it was called. It was just theater spaces.
Yeah.
And then we got one in like the middle of 2010 and then that became ended up being the home and now but I'll never forget that. And I remember you so specifically coming in and I don't know what you thought about me the first time.
I don't think I'd ever had an experience where like to start an acting class, I had to go, I kind of thought it was like an audition and it wasn't really, obviously in hindsight, where it was more just like, oh, let me see like kind of where you're at and like what you're working with. So I know like what to do and how to help you. But I was like, I'm going to go over to this guy's house and like do a scene for him.
Might be
like,
weird. I don't know what's
like,
happening.
I don't know who this guy is. Yeah. But yeah, it was wild to me. I was like, all right, well, here we go.
But I remember meeting you, and I've used you as an example as far as like, the evolution of acting of just like, you were good when I met you. Like, it's not like you were like, this was not a man who was like a kid who was broken or anything. Right. You just didn't have a lot of data. You were just like picking up data. But I do remember from the very beginning, you had, it's unique. You had a vision for yourself, you had a manager who really believed in you.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a vision, like I don't know whether it was real or, I mean, it was definitely real. Like you weren't putting anything on, but it was a belief that you were going to work. Even if there was not really evidence of that at that point. But there was a really great work ethic. Like the work ethic was there, which is always to me my favorite thing. And your ego was always attached to like the work, not to you. Like a note was never personal. It was like you were very curious.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember when you were in class, you had gone to take a workshop with Larry Moss, and you really liked that. You know, and Larry, you know, gave you some great stuff, but you were always collecting. But it was you never were defended. But I just want to know, like, when you came in, where did that fucking come from? Because there was I don't know, just a clarity. It feels like ever since I've known you, even when there was not a lot of stuff going on, there was the way you would talk about yourself and in the career. It was never delusional, but it was certainly with like a clarity of what you wanted to do. And then what was weird is jobs would start to come, like when you were on the originals, like you're like, yeah, oh yeah, I got this thing and now I'm a recurring on that. It's almost like the jobs caught up with the belief.
Yeah.
And you're a unique person when it comes to that certainty. Not that you never had doubts or whatever it was, but there was you led with certainty and maybe occasionally revealed like, what the fuck, but it led with a certainty. And I'm just curious if you could speak on that.
Yeah, I think I know exactly where it comes from. And I think probably the reason it's unique is because my path to this was a little bit unique. Like I don't know if you remember, but like I never really planned on being an actor.
No.
You know, it was like a fun hobby when I was growing up, right? Like high school plays, cool, that's fun. I like the feeling that gives me. I make people laugh and cool. And then I go to college and I'm like, well, I'm not going to be an actor for the rest of my life. That's ridiculous.
You went to UVA.
Went to UVA and I was going to go to law school. Like I was dead set on being a lawyer. All 4 years studied to be a lawyer. I majored in political science and history and a minor in economics. And I was like, great, I'm going to go to law school. Found myself in LA right after I graduated for an internship at a law firm, like a fairly prestigious internship at a law firm.
How did you get that internship?
Through a whole like application and interview process.
You did the whole thing?
Yeah. And it was like a summer long thing. And then I was like, I wanted to take a couple of years off to just experience the world before I went to law school. Because, you know, law is one of those things like once you go to law school, you kind of have to take the bar. Once you take the bar, you kind of have to start practicing all those. So there's like a specific path. And so I had this whole career in mind, right? And like the legal career is interesting because it's exactly what you just said. Like there is a step-by-step nature to it where it's like, great, this is how many years I'm going to have to practice as an associate at a firm before I'm able to make partner. And then you make different levels of partner. And it's like, as long as you're good and you do the work and, you know, you prove your worth,
you will rise.
You will rise. And that's just like what it is. And so I kind of just like brought that mentality when I did decide to make the transition and I was like, okay, you know what? I think I want to do this for real. That was just like the mentality that I had with me where I'm like, well, there's only really one way to fail at this, and that's to quit, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's the only way to actually fail at doing this.
There's a great Seth Rogen clip on that.
Does he say something about the same?
Yeah, he's like, look, if you're going to make it, you can't quit. The one thing you won't make it if you quit. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but I guess I guess I just like had that like law thing in the back of my mind where I'm like, well, yeah, I'll work for, I'll keep like practicing and working my ass off for a certain number of years. And then like, I'll get that first job and that'll be great. And I'll get like a bunch of little jobs like that, right? A bunch of guest stars. And then like at some point, once I've done enough of those and proved myself, then somebody will give me like a recurring and I'll get to do a few episodes on a show and maybe do a few of those. And then like at some point I'll get to be a series regular.
I think I even remember one point, like I have a 3-year thing. I think you had once said like a 3-year but then enough good things. So you had to extend the year, the process.
Yeah.
Because like, I'm having enough wins to where this is basically I'm rising, so now all of a sudden I have to change the calculus.
Yes, but there were also like plateaus in over that time span where it's like I kind of like hit one level, and for a while it was like, damn, I don't know if I can like get to the next level because it doesn't seem to be happening. Like there was I'm trying to remember what year it was now, maybe 2012. I know it was 2012 because I got the originals in 2013. 2012, it was like I had done a bunch of guest stars, couple recurrings. I'd like done Pretty Little Liars, like the first few episodes of that show, and it was like went on to be a huge thing. And I kept like kind of getting close to like those bigger jobs, and they just weren't happening. And I very specifically remember being like, well, maybe like this is just the actor that I'm going to like, this is the career that I'm going to have if I'm going to be an actor, right? It's just going to be a series of like, guest stars during the year, and that's how I'll make my living. And I had to kind of contend with like, if that's all it's going to be, is that really what I want?
Right.
And actually, believe it or not, it was something that you said that has stuck with me forever. And I tell this to other people all the time. The one quote that I have in my head from John Rosenfeld that has always stuck with me is, booking is a mistake. You put yourself in the position to get the job. Whether you actually get it or not is a complete accident, right? Like 99 times out of 100, it really has nothing to do with you. And I always thought that was bullshit, all due respect. Like for a long time, I was like, oh God, that's just something that like acting teachers say to like their students to keep them coming back to class, But it's true. And I think the further you get into this industry and the more you work, you realize like, oh yeah, I didn't get that job because X, Y, and Z that had nothing to do with me. All I can do is like get to those final rounds, right? Like get to the test, get the callback, like be one of the people who's in the mix, who's in contention. And then if the job actually comes through, great. It's an accident, whether you get it or not. And that always stuck with me. And I think that's what changed my mentality a little bit of like, okay, great. Keep putting myself in the position where I'm being noticed. I'm like progressing through the stages of auditions and all that. And then like eventually things will break my way.
I have to bring up one of my favorite events with you.
Oh God.
Was when this must have been around, I think 2016. I don't know. So I don't know, whatever it was, but you were testing for a show as well. You were going in for something for like a high schooler, and it was like,
oh yeah, yeah.
And we were like, you're coming in like, John, I shouldn't even go. Like they're firing the lead, they're firing the kid, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. And we started working out like, you're never gonna get this. Like you can't play high school. Like he actually has to look like he's in high school. He can't kind of look like he's in high school. And you were.
It wasn't that it was just high school. I don't know if you remember this because like I had been playing high school roles, but it was that I was like supposed to be the kind of like nerdy science kid, and I was like, I looked like I was in my late 20s, like kind of bulky.
You were recurring on the originals at the time,
no,
right?
It wasn't. It was right before I got the originals.
It was right before you got the originals. But we're working on it, and I remember we started off going, all right, well, let's just look it over. Because you hadn't, it was like a first read.
Yeah.
And we go and look it over, and then we started working on it, and we actually made it really good. Like, it was really funny.
Yes.
And we were like, yeah, well, hey, maybe, I remember we were like, maybe they will think of you for other stuff.
Yes.
And you
100%.
go in the audition, and you call me up, you're like, John, I have a callback. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, and we laughed at it. We're like, okay. Then you call me again. You're like, I'm testing. And you make it so far. And Rob was just going, but then we had a conversation where we started to try to justify it to ourselves. Well, maybe, if they actually cast other people. And then you go, I believe you went all the way to network. And then they end up going, like, it went great. They're like, yeah, he's too old.
Literally, yeah, but you know what yes, exactly. I mean, you have that story down to a T, and the tragic part of the story that you're missing is when I was testing, it was me. This was back when we did like tests in person, like you went to the studio and then like the next day or two you'd go to the network. And I remember I went to the studio test and it was me and one other guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is who I'm against. And I was like, oh, he looks so much more right for the role. Like, obviously this is where the buck stops, and like, okay, great. I've had a good run, but people are finally going to like wake up and be like, oh, this guy can't play this role. After the studio test, I get a call from my reps like an hour later and they were like, so here's the deal. They cut the other guy. It's just you. It's pretty much a done deal. You're going to go to network by yourself just to kind of like sign off on it. And I was remember. Like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm actually going to get this job. This is insane. But like you said, we had talked ourselves into like, well, maybe they just see it a different way. And
maybe
like,
there's something we're not seeing aesthetically. There's something we're just missing something.
And what's so funny? I remember in the studio test, like it was a dead room. Like I did the scene and I did not think it had gone well because like there were no laughs. It was a sitcom. It was a dead room. And then I get that call that like they loved you. You're going on. And then I get to the network and it's like Bob, what's his face from back in the day? Bob Green. Remember the president of NBC back in the day? And like all the NBC execs and like killed in the room. I mean, like, just people were laughing, dying. I left that thing. I called my manager and I was like, I got this. This is awesome. I'm like, this is my first leading role. Great. And like 30 minutes later, I get a call and they're like, hey, are you sitting down? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sitting down. And they're like, Didn't happen. It's not going to happen.
Oh,
And
they
I-
didn't do the setup of like, you go. That's
No,
could have
no,
gone.
no. And I was so devastated because I had convinced myself that this was like the role for me. And I really, truly remember thinking, well, if I didn't get that, then it's over. I'm never going to get.
Really?
Yeah. I was heartbroken for like 2 weeks. If I didn't get that job that I was so right for, this is what I convinced myself of, then I'm never, I'm never going to get to that level again.
So what made you recover from that? Because you got the
2 weeks
originals.
later, I got the originals.
You got the original.
Yeah. I got the
I gotta
originals
say
literally
that-
2 weeks later. And it was after me being like, the funny thing about the originals was I had gotten the audition, I had read it and been like, I don't think this is right for me, so I'm going to pass on it. I had no business passing on anything at that point, but I did like a couple times, and they called back and they were like, you're thinking about this role wrong. This is what we want. They know you, they know exactly what you do in the room, so go in and read for it. And then I got it, and what was supposed to be 3 episodes turned into 5 seasons.
Wow. How many episodes did you do of that show?
Like 50 over 5 seasons. I was a regular. I mean, that was my first series regular. So blessing in disguise, because the one that I tested for and didn't get was canceled after like 4 episodes. So,
Wait, which? Oh, that's right. It got
Yeah,
canceled right away.
got canceled right away.
I will say though, it does mean something that you also killed it in the room. That you did great.
yeah, I would assume so.
No, what I mean is just for not even as far as them, for you.
Yeah.
Because I think back and like one of my biggest, I tested for the movie iRobot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like me and Alan Tudyk and
Uh-huh.
Karen Lewis, and I didn't do bad, but I didn't live up to. I disappointed myself.
Yeah.
I was like, I got small,
Yeah, yeah.
and that affected me. And I think that it took me a while to later years to realize that's why that kind of is like a haunting feeling,
Mm-hmm.
because I got small when I really should have gotten big.
Yeah.
I should have been like, this is my fucking space. This is my fucking time. So what I'm seeing like during that period is that you were able to go in front of that network. And by the way, for anyone that has tested, it's not a normal occurrence. Like
And it doesn't happen anymore, right? Like
it does. It does.
It?
It does. It
The
still happens.
in-person tests. I was like, kids these days, they have it so easy, With their
Sometimes. I mean,
Zoom
it can be.
tests and
It-
like,
not at,
or they
not,
send in a tape and it's just like, that's the tape
not
that goes
quite
all
as
the way
jolting.
through.
Not quite as jolting, but it can happen. But I think, why are you putting 18 people in a room who are giving that look of
all wearing
entertaining me?
suits.
Oh, suits.
Literally.
You're giving suits a bad name.
Yeah.
But to go in and have that win of like, look, I left it. I left it all on the table. Like
Yeah.
I just like I gave it. I did it. There's nothing I regret. That no matter what builds upon itself, because you have those wins, those story that history in your body that's knowing like I can show up for the event. Which I think is wildly
Well, that's the
important.
lesson I should have taken away from that. And I was too young and inexperienced to know the difference at the time.
Yeah.
But the lesson I should have taken away was I just went into a room with the president of NBC and made him laugh.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
That's literally all that you can do, right?
Yeah, but you're also allowed to grieve when you feel that, like, because
Of course.
you hadn't had that.
Of course. And that will never stop. I mean, there's always, everybody in their career is going to have, like, no matter how experienced you are, there's going to be jobs where you're like, man, I really wanted that. And it doesn't work out for whatever reason.
But during that period before you got
Yeah.
the originals, because God, you were in a class with so many working people.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like so many people who were like coming back, leaving, like show, like whatever, which was great because it made everyone know, like, wow, this is definitely possible. Like it's happening.
Yeah, that's a kind of how I always, whether it was people that I was with in class or people that I saw on TV, like I'm one of those crazy actors, by the way. I think I've told you this before, maybe not, because it makes me look like a psychopath, but I watch every single thing that I auditioned for that I did not get.
Really?
Every single
That's
thing.
very smart.
Yeah, because
And-
I'm like, I want to know who got it.
Yeah.
I want to know, at least guess as to why they got it over me. And then I can learn from it either way, right? If the person that got the job did something that I didn't think of or, was so much better than me, I'm like, wow, okay, now I'm learning, like that's what it takes to get that job. And that's a really interesting way to play that role. And I didn't think about that before. Great. Or the alternative is, oh, I was just as good as that person or better in the audition that I did, which means it had nothing to do with me. So either way, it's a win, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of thought about class that way too, where I'm like, yeah, I came like I saw in class at your studio. It was just like so many working actors, so many successful people, and I'm like, I'm in class, I'm like, I'm in scenes with these people, and I'm like, I'm going toe to toe with them as far as just like the work that we're putting up in class. I'm like, I can do that. Like, I know that I can do this.
Yeah, you were never the actor that took another person's win as your loss. Like it always fueled you.
Because it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. But for some,
it's not a
hard
zero-sum game.
because they're
There's
like, why am I?
No,
there
enough
becomes
jobs.
a comparison,
Yeah.
which is just such a form of masochism, and you never suffered that.
No, it was more like inspiring. Like, oh, they can get a job. Well, then I can get a job.
Were you in class? There was one of my favorite days ever in class was when, remember Melissa Tang
Yeah.
and Camille Guadi?
Yeah.
When what happened with them with their pilots?
Remind me. I feel like I do know what you're talking about, but I can't exactly remember the details.
I may be getting them. That's definitely those two. I don't remember, but what ended up
Remember Melissa Tang getting a show?
So what happened was Camille had. Supposedly it was like the last pilots to be cast at pilot season, and Camille was up for something, and somehow she was the choice, but had one of your experiences, like she just didn't get it.
Yeah.
So very sad, very sad. But then Melissa gets a call that she's going to go out for Camille's
For that
part.
same
It may be
part.
switched. I mean, maybe
Yeah,
getting
right,
the job,
right.
but then Melissa's going to go out for that. And Melissa had just tested for something, and she didn't get it. She's like, "It's done. It's over." And I'm like, "Hey, listen, I coached Camille on this. She didn't get it, but she tested." And I go, "Let me get you on the phone with Camille." So Camille spoon-fed Melissa everything that they wanted.
Wow.
And then Camille happened to get a pilot audition that night. That week, they both got pilots.
Oh my God.
But it was the most beautiful, just example of generosity.
Yeah,
where
of
it's like,
course.
I got you. I didn't get it. Let's get you the part.
Yeah, because why not?
And why not? And it was so just delightful and incredible.
That's an amazing story.
I love
Wow.
those days.
Yeah. That's got to feel good as like a teacher and a coach when stuff like that happens.
Oh my God, so much so. I mean, that's the thing I do miss so much about those. There is something about the going into the room, not just the energy that it creates for what happens in class, knowing that they've got to get ready to be in the room.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We're not
yeah.
getting ready for your self-tape. We're getting ready for you to be in the room.
Yeah.
But like when John Beavers, you should see this post that Dan Fogelman did about John Beavers. It's one of the most beautiful posts I've ever seen. Because John Beavers did go into the room.
Oh, he did?
He did.
Okay.
And he was really fighting for him. And Dan Fogelman, what the text basically says is he really was in love with John Beavers from first sight. But when he left the room after he had just crushed it, he realized he got worried. He's like, I don't know if I've given him enough material to really prove to them that he's the guy. And he was afraid that the higher ups might choose to have a name.
Mm-hmm.
So he went outside and grabbed John. He's like, hey, there's a meaty scene from episode 4. There's a really meaty scene. Could you just look at it and come back into the room? And he told him his worry. What's that?
He just did it cold?
Just in the post, he goes, we handed it to him. I go, we'll print it up. Just look at it and come back. And I promise you, look, I want to put it on tape. But if it's bad, no one will see it. It will not see the light of day. And he was shocked because 5 minutes later, John Beavers. And when Fogelman asked him this, he just said Beavers was nonplussed. He was just like, sure. 5 minutes later, comes back, I'm ready. And he goes, Beavers killed it and booked the role on the spot.
Love that.
And he said, and what I love what Fogelman really is like, he's married to an actress, and he's like, I have so much sympathy, I have so much empathy for actors. But he's like, Beavers was such a beast. And in his craft, his skill, he was ready to he was prepared for the moment.
Yeah.
And he was just saying, and that's it. I think the one casualty of the pandemic and the strike and self-taping is that people don't have it necessarily as ingrained to be prepared for the moment because they're not getting that, because they're not having to go into that room and encounter people's faces and the looks on their faces. Mm-hmm. Because there is nothing about seeing something in person when someone's buying it and versus someone who's going immediately like, nope.
Yeah.
That keeps you really freaking motivated.
I am so glad that I started in this business at a time when we were still almost always going in person. You were in front of real people, sometimes very powerful people, and you just kind of had to swallow that pit in your throat and be like, okay, great, this is what I do. It like really steels you for what you end up having to do in this business. And also, my God, just like the depth of relationships that you're able to create from like repeatedly going in to read for the same people over the course of many years, like that just lays the foundation. It plants those seeds for the long term. And like I don't know, it's a really sad thing that we've kind of lost that. And to your point, I mean, look, I love actors, and I have all the respect in the world for people who do this for a profession, because it's scary and it's hard. It's really challenging to actually make a living, especially these days. But I gotta say, actors are some of the laziest fucking people I've ever met.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a friend who is an actor that I worked with on a show for a long time, and his partner is a professional cellist, like world-class cello player. And I remember we were talking a couple years ago, and he was like, man, she sits down for 3 or 4 hours a day and just practices. I mean, and he's like, when do actors practice? Like,
I did.
I do. I mean, I'm still at the point where like I'm not sitting down every day, but like,
no,
but
when you're getting ready for the event,
at the top level, actors are going to class once a week, and like they're finding an hour to like read through the scene they're going to do in class that week at some point during the week. Like maybe they get together and rehearse for a couple hours, but like in general, and now it's gotten worse. This was my point with that story, is like now it's gotten worse because the number of actors I know that use teleprompters for auditions. I mean, look, no judgment, do what works for you. But I gotta say, it doesn't work. Like, if you are reading your lines off of a teleprompter, how can you possibly, like, be in the world that you're supposed to be in and telling the story and, like, being spontaneous and improvisational? And it's like that level of laziness, I'm just like, and now we get time, Like the news, like, we get at least a few days. You're telling me you can't memorize 2 scenes to like go in and do your tape?
I think a lot of people, because of the way the industry has been, they're like, a lot of people are needing some external win to feel like they should be working hard. I think right now it's like they want to work hard when their agent starts getting them auditions. And you're like, no, man, you got to now. Now you have touched on something that is means a lot to me. And I do like that. I think that, lazy it's a great thing of like, reflect back on how hard did I work? Was I really spending a few hours? And I think you have to really be willing to spend time with yourself, exploring yourself. Where does this part exist within me? Yes. Finding it, doing all that, versus like, I'm going to get these lines down.
That's like level 1.
Level 1. That is level
great,
1.
Learn the words. Okay, now there's like a whole lot of work to do.
A whole thing you got to do.
Exactly. And even when you don't have auditions, I mean, my God, like over the years, I started, studying with some people here and there that would do a lot of like Lee Strasberg stuff, right? A lot of method stuff. And it's like, you know what? There's like a million exercises that I can do at home that have nothing to do with a script or learning lines or playing a part or anything. It's just like exercises that you can do on your own, and you can do it for 30 minutes, a day.
You have been able to take a very unemotional, objective look at just how one can function in this career. It's just like, okay, like even just like lazy versus actually doing the work, which has been obviously very beneficial.
Well, do you know where that comes from? We talked about, I went to college, right? I went to 4 years of college, thought I was going to go to law school. All my best friends, when I, got out here and I decided to be an actor, they all had normal jobs, not in the entertainment industry.
I remember that. You had a lot of friends outside of the industry.
And I still do. Like most of my best friends are all outside the industry. And I love it that way. In fact, I've like my girlfriend and some of my really close industry friends have joked that they've never actually met like a lot of my best friends outside the industry. And they're like, we didn't even realize that you had. And it's like, I'm not intentionally trying to keep them separate. Right. It's just kind of like the nature of my relationships. But when I was first starting, like, I would live with a couple friends, and like in the morning they would wake up and like put on their work outfit and go to work at like 8 o'clock and come back at 5 or 6 o'clock. And like they would work all day. And like if they got back at the end of the day and they were like, hey man, how was your day? Like, what did you do? And I wanted to have something to say.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to show them that like, oh, you went to your office and worked today. I did work too on my career, even though it had nothing to do with an audition or anything like that, because otherwise what am I doing? Like here, these other 22, 23-year-old guys that are going to the office and working for 9-10 hours a day. Like, what am I doing?
And I remember I felt so aligned with you because I remember, it's like when I lived in New York, I you leave your apartment, you don't come back until the end of the day, but you can't just swing back. So I would take a bag with
Yeah.
like another change of clothes and work out, like a whole outfit. And I would like go to New York Sports Club downtown. I'd work out or do whatever, change for whatever audition I had. And you lived in Venice. And
I
you're
moved from West Hollywood to the West Side.
and you never once complained, John, your studio's all the way in West Hollywood. I can't make it. No, you literally scheduled your day.
Yeah.
I'm leaving for the day. I have a bag.
Yeah.
And
I didn't want to get stuck in traffic, so I would leave at like 11 in the morning and just come over here for the day.
Yes.
I would like find people to work with. I'd be like, hey, you want to like run a scene? You want to like tape something just for fun? Like,
yes.
Because otherwise, again, it's just like, I don't know what a lot of actors do all day long. If they're not on a set working, like what actually do you do? And
their day jobs or whatever it is.
And like all of that. Yeah, of course. And that's amazing.
But you have to schedule it.
You have to schedule it. And also, like, let's be honest. I know lots of working actors that don't have day jobs. And like they just kind of sit around and waiting for the phone to ring, for their next audition and like hope that works out.
Yeah, I feel like that tide is turning by necessity. I think, there's some people who are like, I got to figure it out. Maybe they don't know what they're doing yet, but I think they're figuring out, like, the tide's got to turn.
Probably.
Did you ever go through a period? I remember certain classes where you would have moments of being like every actor, like, when you come close and be like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
A couple of like, I'm ready, I want it. There's a particular tenor of the voice which has to be there for it to be real. Meaning it's got to be like, I know I'm showing up.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm doing the work. Now I'm ready for one of those accidents to be in my favor.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, let's go.
Yeah.
But I find that all the people that have that, like that, I've had a few lately where it's just like, I am fucking ready. And they always work right after that. And it's not coming from a place of feeling like entitled or like, it just, I know I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is a particular way of walking around. It's even the way you engage with anybody, is the way you engage, even in a self-tape, in the way you engage with an agent or a casting director. But was there any time that was particularly heightened where you're like, I don't know, man?
Actually, yeah. And it was with you. It was actually, I remember it very clearly. It was with you and Patrick Kavanaugh.
Okay.
When I don't remember exactly what we were doing in class, but it was almost like an evaluation kind of week where like, we had been in class for a while and you took like 5 or 10 minutes to like talk to everybody and be like, hey, like here's our honest assessment of, what you've been doing well, where you're at, et cetera, et cetera. And you guys both asked me, am I in therapy? And I was not at the time. I had not been since I was like 8 years old and my parents got divorced, and it was like, child therapy to deal with that. And I very distinctly remember you guys both saying, there's so much like alive inside of you, and yet the way it comes out, you are gripping it so hard. And you were like, I was doing the thing where I would like plan out every single moment of the scene because I knew it was the right way to do the scene. And so it always came out, it was like good, but it didn't really feel super alive. It didn't feel like a real human being that was just like living in the world. And when you guys both said, hey, are you in therapy? I think that might be a really good thing for you to look into, because it would just unlock, it has the potential to just unlock all these things and just allow you to kind of like trust that you've done the work and then get into these scenes and just live in them and just experience them. And I think at that moment I was like, shit, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this because I don't want to go to therapy.
Wow.
Yeah, I really didn't. I was just like, I don't want to sit down with a therapist once a week or once every other week and like talk about my feelings. Like, can we just, I know the lines. I know what the scene's supposed to look like. Why isn't that good enough? And I was like, do I really want to? And I didn't. I didn't for another probably year or two. It took me going to another class. I studied with Tony Greco for a little while, and it took his kind of like TA who had been with him for a long time asking me the same question, and specifically saying, I have a therapist for you if you want to talk to him. And it was that step that was finally like, oh, all right.
Should have given you
I'm now like hearing multiple people in multiple different worlds saying the same thing. Let me go talk to somebody. And who knows if that was, the thing that actually like kind of broke in a good way for me, but it certainly didn't hurt.
It saved me. I mean, literally in my first year of grad school, like after a few months, my teacher, Nancy Lane, who really changed my whole life, we were doing all this stuff and she comes up, she's like, John, can I speak to you? I was like, yeah. She's like, she was a little nicer. She's like, not nicer. She was a little more like just blunt. She's like, I need you to go to a therapist. Yeah. And I went, what? Yeah, here. She gave me a number. I was like, why? Just go.
Uh-huh.
Why though? And she's like, just go. She wouldn't even indulge the question.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went, and I don't know, within the first session, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And it was just it wasn't even, it was just like the idea of talking to someone where their interest in me is not conditional. Like, it's like, I don't have to work for them to be interested. I'm paying them.
Right.
Like all of a sudden you're here. I don't have to work to keep your attention. And it changed my acting that day where I was like, oh, I work way too hard.
Yeah. 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 You're right. I think the effect is even a little bit more indirect where it's just like you are conditioned once you're talking to a therapist that like those sessions are completely improvisational.
That's all it
right?
is.
Like most of the time I will go into therapy sessions and I'm like, hey, I've had a busy week. Like I didn't really think about what to talk about this week. And he's like, all right, well, how's this going? How's this going? And by the time the hour is up, I'm like, oh shit, we got into some stuff there.
Well, yeah,
like,
you might go and go, I got nothing.
Yeah,
and
I do that all the time.
And I really doubt that's true.
Yes, no, exactly. But it's just like I
well,
haven't planned anything out.
Yeah.
And then the more you do that, all of a sudden it starts happening naturally in your work where you're like, okay, I've done the work on the scene, but like I don't have to stick to this plan, and now I can just kind of go into this and like know that I'm allowed to just live and be improvisational, and it just it creates a whole new thing, I think.
And so that where in that feeling, I don't want to, and then that the between me and the TA.
Well, I think I was like, I'll prove you wrong. I was like, nope, watch this. Like I'll do it without your stupid therapy. Watch me, and I did not.
I think we all get to that place where it's like, you don't know. But then eventually you start to go, well, maybe they do. And it just, because all of a sudden, whatever I'm doing isn't quite working for me.
Yeah.
I said to an actor the other day, we had a big talk about this stuff. And I said, and tell me whether you agree with this. I said, you got to get really sick of yourself to change.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I am. I was like, no, you're not.
No, you're not. Yeah.
You're not yet. You know, you will be. Like when you are, like I know for me at least, I've had a couple of periods where I've gotten like truly fucking sick of myself. When that happens, that is what brings on the shift.
Mm-hmm.
Like this won't last. I can't survive this way.
Yeah.
Or I could survive, but I'm certainly going to do well.
Yeah.
You know?
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. Nobody can tell you when that moment is there. Like it's not there until you feel it.
No.
Where you're like, okay, I have to do this thing, or
it's so guttural.
Yeah.
It's so in your being.
Yep.
It affects the way you look in the mirror. It affects everything.
Yeah. And eventually you're just like, if I want what I'm telling myself I want, like if I actually want that thing, then guess what? This is the only option. This is the direction that I have to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel, that's the thing about today's world right now. I feel like a lot of people need to hear this. Like, I think a lot of people need to hear this. It's so important. Look, as far as acting, look, at the end of the day, just be a happy human.
Well, yeah.
Helps. At the end of the day, it certainly fucking helps.
Yeah.
But without owning where you're at and being really honest with where you're at, you're certainly never going to be able to step inside a character.
Also very true.
Like authentically. Yeah. You're not even you're not even in your own body.
You're in your own body, yeah.
Okay. Now we're at Yellow Jackets.
Hey-o.
You got this at the end of 2019?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or you started shooting at the end of it?
Well, both. Because it was a pilot. It wasn't picked up straight to series. So yeah, I got it. And this was if you remember, I came back to LA from Atlanta after 5 years on the originals.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to figure out a way to kind of like stay in the game. I didn't want to be the person that just like sat around and waited for the phone to ring, you know, for auditions and like that be my only acting experience. But I was also like, okay, I want to try some different things as far as class goes. And so I really honestly thought that it would be a great idea to like teach a little bit, TA, coach, like that kind of stuff. And you graciously allowed me into that position here at the studio. And
still miss you.
Don't get me started. But it was like, it was honestly kind of a transformative period for me because I came off of that show and I was like, okay, well that was great. That was a CW world. I instinctually knew that I was it was going to take me a little while to find the next thing.
Yeah.
For like a number of reasons. I was like, I still don't quite feel like a grown up. Like I would shave my face and people were still like, could you play high school? Maybe, I don't know. And I'm like, absolutely not. But I was like, it's gonna take people a while to like figure out where I fit in this business. And so I was like, I need to stay sharp in the meantime. And we finished the originals in January of 2018. And I had some like guest stars over the next year and a half and whatnot. But like, yeah, it wasn't until October, I think, of 2019, November of 2019, until I got Yellow Jackets. And that was, the script came in and it was from two of the writers on the originals. So I knew them very well. Like they had written on the first 3 seasons of the originals. They were like my favorite writers on the originals. They wrote for my character specifically really well. I remember being pissed off at them when they left the originals because I was like, what are you doing? Why are you screwing me over?
Yeah.
And it's like in hindsight, no, they were just building their career as anybody would. And when I saw the script come in, I was like, I know this is going to be amazing because I know how good they are. And it was, to this day, I think it's the best pilot script I've ever read.
Yeah.
B, in the back of my head, I was like, did they write this for me? I was like, it seems like the character is kind of like a variation of what I did on the originals. I was like, am I like in that position now where maybe they wrote something for me? And
Right.
they kind of wrote it a little bit with me in mind, which is nice. But it was still, I got put through the ringer,
Did you get put through the ringer?
Oh yeah. There was a time when
that.
I had gotten a text from one of the creators, and she was like, she's like, obviously we love you. We are like pushing so hard.
Not up to us.
Just it's not up to us. I don't.
Yeah.
And when I was just like they wouldn't send that text if it was going to go my way.
Right.
And then it magically did.
Just went your way.
It did. And yeah, so we shot the pilot in the end of 2019. It was one of those very surreal moments because we left in December of 2019 and it was like, this is awesome. Like this show is going to be great. We'll see you guys in a few months. It's not going to take them long to pick this thing up. Probably be back in March, April 2020. Start shooting the first season. Oh man. Oh, my stomach actually turns a little bit just thinking about it. Cause I mean, all that stuff hit and like, obviously not to be selfish and self-centered. There was a lot of worse shit going on in the world at that point, but I was just like, well, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for the show that I just got that I think could be a huge thing? And we spent all of 2020 just like wondering, sitting around, waiting. All the actors had signed 12-month options, which I always thought was really long because I was used to kind of like network stuff where it was like, it's 3 months, and they will pick up the show or not. And all my reps were like, it's just a formality. It'll never take 12 months to actually pick it up.
But then during a pandemic.
12 months to like a year to the day. Like they picked
Really?
it up one day before all of our options expired in December of 2020.
And then you started shooting.
In May of 2021. So a full year and a half after the pilot. And the amazing thing was in the meantime, when everything came back at the end of 2020 and started filming again, I had gotten offered a 1-season role on another CW show on Roswell.
And you did that, though.
And I did it. So I left LA in October of 2020, got 1 season of that, and I was like, hey, when am I going to be done, and will this work with Yellow Jackets if we get picked up? Because it was starting to look better at that point. And so it was a whole thing going back and forth of like, okay, you can have him until this date, but we need him by this. I wrapped on Roswell in April and had 3 days to drive from Santa Fe, New Mexico to Vancouver to start filming Yellow Jackets. So like that year, as awful as it was in the world, I was like, that was like the inflection point, I think, in my career, where it was like I did a 1-season regular on Roswell and then went straight into Yellow Jackets. And now here we are 3 seasons
I remember
later.
so clearly talking to you after season 1 had just dropped. And it was like, we're picked up, we're going. It's like, it was just like, it was.
Yeah, and I thought it was going to be terrible. I mean, when we were there filming, I think a lot of us did, just because it was still in the middle of COVID. It was Canada, the whole thing, first season shows, like they're oftentimes a shit show. No idea. And it didn't feel good in the moment. Like it just felt like kind of a train wreck a lot of times. And so a lot of us were like, I don't know. I mean, I remember calling my reps and being like, hey guys, we should start looking for, like start looking for the next thing. I don't think this is
You
going
don't
to
think
get picked. I'm like, this is going to get canceled or whatever. And then sure enough, like a few episodes in, I remember before the show premiered and the reviews came out and it had like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And we got like a little thing in the mail that was like certified 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
my
And
God.
I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm like, this
Isn't that
show is
crazy?
apparently good.
It makes me think of Josh Brolin when he said he was filming No Country for Old Men. He's like, I don't know.
Yeah. You don't know. We're stupid.
Like,
We're
I
actors. We don't
Is this
know.
going to be
don't know anything.
anything? Whatever. I do have a couple of questions. One, first of all, in the originals, your character was gay, right?
Yeah.
Your current character is gay.
Correct. I did play a straight man in between on Roswell.
You did play a straight man.
So yeah.
How does that? Just tell me about that. Like, what does it mean?
I mean, I don't think it means a whole lot other than like the character was right for me. It happened to be gay, and it was a character.
No,
that
but I'm
was
saying,
right
like, for you,
me.
was it something you? First of all, I just remember back in the day, it's how interesting how our industry has shifted. Remember, like before, you would get in trouble.
Yeah. Well, I think that was actually in the middle. I mean, when I initially turned down the audition for the originals, it was because when I was reading it, I was like, oh, I think they want like a very flamboyantly kind of like queenish gay man.
For which one?
For the originals.
Okay.
And I was like, and that's not really me. So like, I'm not, and they had to call back and be like, you're misreading this. That's not what we want at all. We literally want like a normal college age dude who happens to be gay. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can do that. And then it was kind of the same deal with Yellow Jackets, where
you never got in trouble?
No, I never got in trouble, and I don't think that I should have, and I don't think anybody should have. I mean, this is like,
I would agree.
I talk about this all the time, where it's like, it is the antithesis of creativity to
I agree
pigeonhole
fully. Yeah.
actors into roles just because the actor happens to be similar to the character in any way whatsoever. I mean, you are literally stifling the creative process if you are saying, okay, here's a gay character, it has to be played by a gay actor. Now, I will say, gay actors should absolutely be auditioning for those roles, and they did, as far as I know, for the roles that I played, because it would be insane to not. As gay actors should be auditioning for straight roles, like
100%.
Everybody should be auditioning for everything. The second you pigeonhole a role and say it has to be this type of actor that plays that role, all of a sudden, not only are you doing a disservice to the creative process and the actor, I think, you're also doing a disservice to the character itself, because what you're saying is this character really distills down to one particular trait, right? That he's gay.
I love it. I'm just really happy that you did not have to go through incurring, the process of incurring the wrath. You know what? That was in the zeitgeist. For
it was. And if I would have, I would have taken it head on, because it's not like, nothing bothers me more than that sentiment and that mentality when it comes to art. Like, this is what we do. We create. And I honestly find that the work that I do, that I feel like is the best work I do, is when a character is not like me at all. And I really have to work to create something, and like get into that creative mindset, versus when I read something and I'm like, oh, this is kind of just like a version of me. I kind of end up half-assing it, because I just default to my own, here's Steven, like, I'm just playing myself, basically.
It's kind of like that thing of like, I know what this is. And the second you know what this is, you don't know what it is. You're not doing any research.
And then you watch it and the work is like flat and it's boring, and it's because you didn't really put any work into it, versus like, oh, great, here's something I really have to try. I really have to like play with.
Spielberg said anytime he's driving a set and he's not nervous, he knows it's going to be a bad day, because that means he's not ready to find it. He's actually has it too pre-planned, or he thinks he knows what it is.
I love that. That's really good.
He's like, he wants to be in the moment going, ooh, this will work. Oh, we got to capture Steven right now. Look at that light. Oh, that's a way. Oh, look how it's bouncing off there. Oh, and then so he's building the story on the day.
I love that.
Lastly, when now you have played a younger person for quite a long time, and now you get to be the teacher around kids. I don't know how old any of them are, but what was it like to be the adult to all these young people? How was that experience?
I mean, it was refreshing.
I bet.
Yeah, it was really nice to be like, oh, you're the grown-up now. I mean, the funny thing is we have like the two halves of the cast on Yellow Jackets, where it's like the younger version and the older version. Yeah. And we kind of like colloquially refer to ourselves as like the kids, the kids and the adults. And I'm like much closer in age to the adults, to like Melanie Linsky and Christina Ricci and all them, than I am to like the kids, who most of whom were like anywhere from 19 to like 23. And so, yeah, it was really refreshing to be like, oh, cool. This is like my first foray into kind of like actual grown-up acting, where I get to play like in a real adult role. And I'm hoping that kind of continues. It's why I continue to have a little bit of facial hair, just so that there's no confusion about me being able to play a grown up. It's like I want to play the doctor. I don't want to play the medical student.
Oh, I think you're ready for that.
I hope
You
so.
do got good genes, though. You got really good genes.
Look, you can't complain, right? I got a full head of hair. I shaved the beard, and I still look pretty young. So by the time I'm like 60, I'm going to be right there.
I'm so sad you're living in Nashville right now.
I know. I get it. But I get to come back, and it makes it real special when I get to sit down with you.
This has been very special for me.
Same. Thanks for having me. This was awesome. I would love that you're doing this, by the way. I think it's important.
Thank you. I literally did it because I needed it. It just was creative, and we needed to do this, right? And it was exciting to me.
That's usually the genesis of something pretty cool.
I'm like, it's fun.
Yeah.
When else? We haven't done this in a really long time.
I know.
And we get to do it.
Yeah. I love it.
I love you.
Love you too, man.
Hashtag Act Your Life is a John Rosenfeld Studios podcast, produced by Pave Path Productions, filmed by Haley Tucker, sound engineering by Haley and Adam Tucker, sound mixing and original music by Brandon Liu and Brandon Liu Music. To learn more about John Rosenfeld Studios, visit www.johnrosenfeld.com.